A queen dies and the world loses her grave. Not a peasant, not a forgotten scribe, but the most famous woman in the ancient Mediterranean, a ruler whose death rewrote empires. And yet, her tomb is missing. A grave should exist, because the records say it was built, because the conqueror allowed the burial, because history insists there was an ending. So why is the final chapter ripped clean from the book? Stay until the end. For the last twist is not only where the tomb might be, but why it may never be found. Tonight we hunt one thing. Not gossip, not romance, not movie mythology. We hunt the receipt. We will build a tomb from the evidence. Ancient authors, later historians, archaeology on land, archaeology undersea, and 2 rival map pins that could hold the truth. One pin points to the drowned heart of Alexandria. The other points to a temple complex called Taposiris Magna. And by the end, you will understand why this grave is the greatest kind of mystery. Because the world expects closure, and history refuses to provide it. A murder is a verdict, a disappearance is a trial that never ends, and a missing tomb is the cruelest kind of unfinished. The body is gone, the location is gone, and the map itself has changed. So every generation returns like jurors called again, certain they will solve what their fathers could not. Now let the curtain rise. We begin not with treasure, but with the last days. Here is the first fact that matters. She did not merely die. She died with the tomb already part of the plan. Ancient sources describe a mausoleum, unfinished in parts, present in the final drama. If that is true, then the tomb is not a rumor. It is a location. So what do the old witnesses actually say? We have multiple ancient voices describing the endgame. Suetonius says Augustus allowed them both the honor of burial in the same tomb, and ordered the mausoleum they had begun to be finished. Cassius reports that they were embalmed in the same manner and buried in the same tomb. And later tradition, anchored in Plutarch, places the tomb near a temple of Isis and describes movement between palace and mausoleum in those final days. These statements do not give us a GPS coordinate, but they give us 3 iron stakes. There was a mausoleum. It was finished and used for burial. It was near something identifiable, palace precincts and/or a temple of Isis. Now comes the question that splits the world. If the tomb was real, why is it missing? Because this is not just a tomb we haven't found. This is a tomb that was famous enough to be written about, and then swallowed by 2 great forces, politics and geography. Politics decides what gets protected. Geography decides what survives. And in this story, both conspired against memory. So let us follow the politics first. The Roman victory, and why a tomb could be both honored and hidden. A Roman triumph is not merely a celebration. It is a public lecture. This is what happens to the defeated. And Augustus wanted the queen alive for that theater, according to Suetonius's account of his desire to save her for a triumph. So here's the tension. If the conqueror wanted a spectacle, why permit an honorable burial? Because Rome was not one emotion. Rome was strategy. A burial could be permission, and it could be containment. It could end the story officially, while ensuring the queen never became a political shrine. And now geography enters like an executioner. If you had to hide a tomb from the future, you would choose one of 2 methods. Bury it deeper than anyone can dig, or let the sea do it for you. Many scholars believe the tomb, if close to palace quarters, may now lie under the waters of Alexandria's ancient harbor, where parts of the royal district collapsed and submerged over time. Former Antiquities Minister Zahi Hawass has argued publicly that the tomb was likely near the palace and could now be underwater, so lost that it may never be found. And underwater archaeology in Alexandria has identified submerged royal harbor features and a palace area associated with the former island of Antirrhodos, tied to the Ptolemaic court. So the Alexandria theory has a brutal elegance. The tomb is not missing because no one looked. It's missing because the city's ancient heart became a drowned archive. But here comes the second twist. There is another pin on the map that refuses to die, a place where people are digging right now. West of Alexandria, the land turns quieter, older, less urban. And in that quiet sits a temple complex that some believe could hide a royal secret. This theory has a face and a name, Kathleen Martinez. Since 2005, she has pursued the argument that the tomb might be near or under Taposiris Magna, and in recent years the site has produced discoveries that keep the theory breathing. Let's walk the evidence slowly like a judge. Archaeology is not magic. It rarely hands you a crown with a name tag. What it gives is accumulation, the slow weight of clues. Reports describe ongoing excavation at Taposiris Magna, revealing features such as foundation deposits and artifacts that demonstrate a significant complex. There have been large numbers of coins found at the site bearing Cleopatra's image, evidence that the place remained active in her era, though coins alone do not prove burial. The project has also involved investigation of underground features, including a long tunnel reported beneath the site in recent years in widely covered accounts. And in 2025, major attention returned when underwater exploration connected to the broader Taposiris Magna landscape reported discovery of submerged structures interpreted as a port active in Cleopatra's time, suggesting the site's ancient relationship to the sea was larger than assumed. These discoveries do not equal tomb found, but they do something powerful. They make the theory harder to dismiss. Yet even here, there is a knife in the velvet, because the phrase Temple of Isis is not a single address. It is a category, and critics argue that the ancient sources most strongly imply proximity to palace quarters in Alexandria, because the final drama unfolds around the city center, the court, the mausoleum, and Roman control. Even supportive coverage stresses the controversy. Taposiris Magna is compelling but not yet confirmed. Many still think Alexandria's royal quarter, possibly underwater, is the likeliest zone. This is why the story grips us. Two pins, each with logic, each with holes. So which pin survives the ancient text best? Now we do the thing most videos skip. We weigh near. History rarely lies with big words. It lies with small ones. Near, close, beside. One translator's near can move a tomb 30 miles. So, what does near mean in a death story under military occupation? Consider the conditions. The queen is defeated. The city is under Roman pressure. The conqueror wants control, possibly even a triumph. Under such conditions, movement is not free. If the mausoleum was part of the immediate endgame, visited, guarded, central to negotiations, then near may mean near enough for rapid control, near enough to keep watch, near enough to prevent escape. This tends to pull the story back toward Alexandria's royal quarters. But if the tomb was pre-planned as a final refuge precisely because the queen expected capture, then secrecy becomes a motive, and a site outside the center becomes plausible. That argument is voiced strongly by proponents of the Taposiris hypothesis. So here is the Shakespearean contradiction. A tomb too close is controllable by Rome. A tomb too far is risky under siege. Yet the records insist a tomb existed and was used. And now we strike the deepest nerve of the story. Even if we choose the correct pin, the tomb may still be missing for a reason more humiliating than conspiracy. The city itself may have moved. The modern mind thinks a city is a fixed object. The ancient world knows better. Earthquakes, subsidence, sea level change, sediment, these are the quiet thieves of monuments. And Alexandria sits where land and sea negotiate daily. Underwater archaeology connected to the ancient royal harbor has documented submerged zones and structures, evidence that parts of the ancient landscape now lie below water and sediment. This is why Hawassa's conclusion is so bleak. If the mausoleum lies in submerged royal quarters, it may be buried under meters of water and sediment, practically a sealed vault without a door. So the Alexandria pin can be right and still remain unreachable, but the Taposiris pin has a different problem. It is reachable, yet still unproven, which brings us to the final act. What would it take to actually solve this? To end a 2,000-year mystery, you need more than vibes. You need at least one of these: an inscription naming the queen, a burial context consistent with elite Ptolemaic practice, or a chain of evidence architecture dating context so tight it locks. Coins are not enough. A tunnel is not enough. A port is not enough. But they are pressure. They are gravity. So what's the strongest pressure on each side? For Alexandria, ancient narratives cluster the final drama around palace-level events and a mausoleum used in the endgame. Suetonius and Dio confirm burial together and completion of the mausoleum, suggesting an official, present locatable structure. Underwater archaeology has identified submerged royal harbor features in a palace zone linked to the Ptolemaic court, making lost underwater not poetic, literal. For Taposiris Magna, active excavation continues with substantial finds indicating significant activity and ritual landscape in the relevant era. Large coin deposits and elite burials at near the site are used by proponents to argue high-status connections, though scholars dispute what that implies. Recent reporting highlights a submerged port landscape near Taposiris Magna, interpreted as active in Cleopatra's time, strengthening the site's plausibility as connected to late Ptolemaic power. So both sides have weight, and now, here comes the ending you've been waiting for. The grave that should exist probably does. The ancient writers agree on the core. Burial together in a mausoleum. So the mystery is not, did she have a tomb? The mystery is, did nature erase the address, or did politics hide it too well? If the tomb lies in the drowned royal quarters, then the sea didn't just take buildings, it took certainty. And if the tomb lies inland, then the queen may have won her last battle, to be buried in a place Rome could not turn into a trophy. That is why this story endures, because it is the war between what history records and what geology permits. Now you decide, jury of the future. A. Alexandria, drowned royal quarters. B. Taposiris Magna, temple landscape. C. A third place we haven't named yet. Comment A, B, or C and give me one reason. Next episode, same style, deeper. Cleopatra's tomb, the two clues everyone misreads in the ancient sources. Subscribe, because history does not always hide the truth. Sometimes the earth simply buries it.